Hello guys, so I know I already did a guide on Baltheon before, but I'm just going to be making one since a 7-star update. There's been some changes to Passer, there's been an addition of new stones, so a few small things have changed, and this is going to change a bit my review of him, so I thought it would just be better to just make an entire new video. So as you can see here, I have the female Baltheon skin. It was during a purchase event, and I know every time I use it, people are going to call me a whale, but I only just spend during those events. So in the end, I actually didn't spend that much, but that's kind of irrelevant. Now, what do I think of Baltheon? First of all, you need to know that he is the #1 passer in Soccer Spirits. On the value of pass effect and the effect of the pass, there is no passer who can actually rival him, and it's kind of logical since he's the only legendary passer in the game. Now, on the base stat level, he has great base stats. They did change them a little bit since before because they found that his dribble value was too high. I actually used at the beginning to run him as a striker, so that kind of says a lot. They did instead increase his pass effect, his action speed, and a little bit his vitality too, so it's really pushing more towards that passer build. I still kind of run a funky ass build on him, but it's kind of my way of doing it. Now, if we look at where we can place him, there are two places to put him, on the sides or in the center. The center is when you like a reflexy Baltheon, a fast Baltheon. It's basically like a Stealer Baltheon, and just the buff of placing him is kind of really cool. So I'm going to say this is, in my eyes, the ideal position for him. But if you're more like a little buffer, pure pass effect Baltheon, you would usually put him on the sides and just leave in the middle something like an Elaine or something like that. Baltheon does react really well to line buffs on reflex and speed, making him really great. I'm actually running that, and I will show you a little bit of gameplay with that at the end of this video. If you want, just skip to that if you already know the rest. Now, mine is not maxed out completely. I am missing one superb, and of course, I am not at plus 30 Transcendence. I am not a complete whale. Now, on a skill level, the first thing is the passes did get nerfed, but now it's every 10 minutes. Who in his case is actually really cool because I like the action bar part, the pass effect, critical rate, critical damage. It's just really cool. So I've got no issue with the lowering because the pass effect he's actually lost on this part has just been basically brought back by the fact that they've given the 7-star who affects the base stat and gives him 2 more points that you can put in quick planning. I would even say in his case, it even feels more like a buff. Now, one of the good things about this is it allows him to be clearly different than most other passers from his other passives. Now, he has a great active, but this is what I'm going to say one of the best passives I've ever seen. It's basically better than equipping 4 or 5 stones in a single passive. Crit rate, pass effect, reflex, 40%, everything you love to see in a frontline. And a critical rate, maybe not as much in a passer, but still a very nice touch. Then we have answer 2, increase pass effect and attack power within a position. So what this means is you're buffing your striker with attack power, you're buffing the pass effect of anything else that could pass to your striker just in case Baltheon is not fast enough to be the one passing, and you're passing the pass effect to Baltheon and his own attack power, so if he's holding the ball and you get attacked, he's going to actually hurt them pretty bad. So also a really great skill. And what used to be the skill that no one would ever max is now maxable. And of course, when I finally get the last superb, I will be throwing it, but I'm not going to throw any superbs on my legendaries until I do the draw just in case I get a dupe. So this is going to take quite a while. Now, increase action speed and pass effect 30%. The pass effect 30%, it doesn't sound like so much. Action speed 30% is really cool. I'd like to point out a stone gives you around 12%. So that's around the equivalent of 3 action speed stones. And for a passer, 30% speed is again really great. Now, I do want to point out for all of you that are going to tell me pass effect is dead, put a 2-man attacker and striker front. I'd like to point out 30% here, another 30% here, 40% here, meaning 100% pass effect buff. Then you're going to add another 40%, meaning on the active, there's a 140% pass effect buff. Now, if you're trying to build him as a passer, if you can get any form of passive that buffs the pass effect, not the effect in itself, but the pass value, it's going to be multiplied by that 140%, which is just going to make something insanely powerful. That's why it is possible to see Baltheon do pass effects above 3,000 points. Again, some strikers are much better with Baltheon. The one we're always going to think of is going to be Hero, who's the one who's going to benefit the most from having a Baltheon. Now, on a Spirit Stone level, so some of these things are changed since the new update, but in my case, I actually have no big issue with my current build because I'm running what I consider an immortal line. The idea is once we get in your front line, we're never getting out. Now, the first thing is this is more on a survival build, and he does need someone to buff his reflex on the line just in case. In my case, it's Milky Way, but if you don't have this, you want to throw in here a Thunder Reflex Stone. So for this build, what's very important to know is that by base, Baltheon has around 120% critical rate without looking at the passive so much. Maybe I might have 10% out of passive, so 110. Meaning, if he's not trying to steal from the goalkeeper and there's not a silk on the line, there is an extremely high chance he will crit. And what does a crit mean with this build? A crit first means 10% of his life will be healed before we calculate the damage. Then there's another 20% of the damage who's going to come back as a heal. And then another 12% is coming from here too. But the thing is, with all the critical damage that's being buffed, he actually has a huge critical damage value. So he's even going to hit very hard. Now, I do love decreased inflicted damage as a substat, so even through when he does get hit, he's not going to be taking that much damage. Of course, my favorite stone is always going to be this Speed Stone with 11.2% of DR. I'm just going to say I don't know anything better than that on a Speed Stone, and if this was a defense stone, I would have given it to my goalkeeper, but since it's not, Baltheon won the Lotto. Now, this stone is really up to your personal taste. I have a Thunder hype stone. I don't have that many of great stones in Thunder because, well, I'm a light user and I just keep getting light stones and Thunder doesn't like me. If you've seen my draw videos, you've actually seen when I was powering up the stones that the Thunder ones took 5 times as long as the light ones, who was very frustrating. One of the reasons why I didn't power up that many of them. Now, on an affection level, he's actually not that bad, but before, I'm actually just going to look at alternate builds. So the first thing you want to notice, there were 2 dark slots and 1 thunder slot. The slots that can be changed is one of the dark and one of the thunders. This is actually going to be important because depending on what you're trying to build, that might block you, because the ideal build would actually be that he doesn't have any dark slot for certain of those builds. Now, what you're going to know is if you want to build him as a passer, between dark and light, there's only 1 pass stone. It's called Silent Cold, but it even got nerfed on a critical damage line buff, who's gone to a point that I would say it's basically a joke. You just like the very high pass effect value, and since you're using a unique, you can add a dark pass stone, and you can add whatever third stone you want. Usually that stone is going to be a speed stone, and then in the prime slot, you're going to throw in the old days, you would throw an Andor pass effect for the spirit, but now what you can also do is you can throw a Thunder one who's going to give you reflex when you are being attacked. So what you could also do as an alternate build is at the place of throwing in a dark speed stone, you could put a dark reflex stone and combine that in the prime slot with a Thunder stone like this, giving him a really high reflex value when he gets attacked and giving him a little buff. So that's kind of a really cool thing you can do while running 3 pass stones. Now, if you prefer to just go pure reflex, who I would say is still viable, but you do have a chance he might die if you do that, so that's why I'm not running it currently. You can go directly wrong stone for lightning speed, or as some people like to call it, LSD, who's going to increase reflex by a very high value and allow you to run then a dark reflex stone. You're going to run a Andor reflex or light reflex, but usually Andor reflex in the prime slot, and you're going to throw either a critical damage or a speed stone or even a hype stone, depending on what you're missing on your player. Any of these free stones is pretty chill in that build, giving Baltheon a very nice stealer build. Now, when should you use these builds? The passer build, either of them, the high reflex one or the non-high reflex one, is going to be more when you got like 1-hit KO strikers or 2-hit KO strikers. If you are running a striker that needs a first buff to activate, for example, Char, you do not want there to be any speed buff on Baltheon. You need him to act second. So you want her to get the ball, strike, then Baltheon or whatever attacker you have steals the ball, gives it to Baltheon, Baltheon does an active pass, and then your striker can shine. So I'm just going to go back to the chains. He does have some really great chains, but they are highly conditional because they're legend-based. Now, this is completely useless on a rival level. This is his very best chain. I know that compared to 99.9% population, my problem is getting Dale and not Metatron. Alright, don't ask me how that actually happened. I'm hoping that when I'm going to be doing my draws later on, that I'm actually going to get him to complete this chain and get this nice buff. Now, there's this who's actually really nice because all three players are really great, and I don't care what anyone says about Lilith, I will run her. Now, this is good because if you're trying to run a mono darkish team, or at least dual, and you're running a Zibroy, because now you know that Char is the #1 striker for the non-5 stars. Well, there's also that Wormwind one, but Char is still the most popular one because people have already built her. He's going to have an elemental advantage, and he's actually pretty decent. Now, Lilith, it's a question of reflex, buff, and healing. That's more for my build, and most builds usually don't like her, but never put her mid. Put her front. Mid, she's completely useless and defenseless. And then we got Malka, who's one of the counterattack monsters, because if you build him enough to have crit, he's going to be able to, in his 2-hit, because he has super play, do around 2.5k damage, meaning he can break basically any player. And then we have Lucifer, who I've never really seen the value in, but again, Mono Dark, you could care about this, and I have no idea why this player's there. It's a 4-star player. Now, as I said earlier, I actually run this player. So I'm going to show you exactly how I run him, just to explain to you the strategy here. Lilith's going to be placed on the side here. Again, it's not her ideal position, and depending on how I feel, I sometimes place Vonchi all the way on the left and Lilith all the way on the right. It really depends what buffs are going down and what kind of line I'm attacking. So the first thing you want to know is that Lilith's actually going to buff him through a chain, who's also cool, as I showed earlier. And Milky Way is going to be giving him, through her Spile Sprinkler, action speed, reflex, and attack power. So Milky Way needs much more investment to be good, yet I still really want to get rid of her. It's a personal issue with her, but irrelevant of this. When you're running this, the idea is Baltheon is going to have all that life regain, and on top of it, thanks to Lilith's passive, Aura of Bloodsuck, he's going to get an extra 15% on top of it, and they're going to lower the defense and attack power of the enemies, meaning they're going to hit me less, and I'm going to give them more damage again, making this a really nice line. Also, I want to point out for those who don't know, reducing defense also means reducing the amount of chance there's going to be a co-op defense, so it's also really nice for the striker. So let's just look a bit of PvP. I might not be running that one right away. Let's try this one. So what are we up against? And yes, I have a 21 chain and it keeps going up. So I'm not going to be testing against this team because there's a 50-50 chance I survive. Let's do this one first and then I'll do the other team. But if you want, you can stop the video now. It's just basically to show you some gameplay. So as I was saying, depending on what I see on the enemy team, I can move Lilith. And with that team, I want to take out the Virgil. Frontline is very standard. Might actually want to do this. And yeah, that sounds better. Don't ask too many questions how Duke became center mid. It actually works very well. And let's run this. I am building Cheetos to put her in backline, but I haven't finished stoning her, getting her fully ready, and she doesn't have any superbs, so that's why I'm still running a Magnus, but I am truly going towards the pure light and dark team. Oh, I'm surprised that they were slower than me with that lineup, but okay, why not? So again, it's always very important to try to look at elemental advantages, and this is why I had a Duke in case she started with the ball. So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Hopefully the goalkeeper acts first. And no, I lose. Okay. Well, we tried. I don't think I've actually lost yet, but next shot is basically losing. So hopefully Virgil will penetrate, and he did not. It was a bad sign. And this is why I have Leah. Basically, do not question what the Leah does. And this is why Duke was there again. It's very fine. As long as people steal the ball and have someone with enough speed or action bar to come and do something about it, it's not an actual problem. Now look at the Baltheon. As you saw, I have no pass effect stone. It's 1,559, so it's actually extremely high. The good part about doing this is I can take out Virgil right away. And well, we don't like Virgil for very specific reasons. Well, I have no actual issues with him, but it's the way people built him, who can be very annoying. Damn, that was one good Michael. Okay, Metatron's going back up. Just to point out, this is not a low-level game, so this is why they're actually pretty decent. And I might actually win this one. Yay, 6k damage on K! Again, I think this really proves what I was saying. Baltheon being one of the greatest passers ever. So, just pointing out, I did do a 6k damage on the second shot of Avanchi, not the third, fourth, or fifth, where everything starts stacking. So again, this proves Baltheon's effect, and this wasn't even an active pass. So I hope this really helps you guys understand Baltheon's value. And again, if you have any questions, comment, or you want any strategies, just message me in the comments, and I can do any player overview that anyone asks. Have a good day, guys.